Hey, how's it going?
What's up?
Hello.
How are you?
Well, yourself?
Good. You're sideways.
Uh-oh. You're not the first person to tell us that.
It ain't got nothing to do with the screen, right?
Where's it? Oh,
Right there. Now you're good.
there we go.
Perfect. How's it going, gents?
Pretty good.
Good.
Yourself?
This is George, and I'm David.
What's up, George and David? Let me guess. David does the books.
There you go. Does it get going?
I'll
Um,
send you too fast.
That's exactly what I meant. That's why David's sick here. I'm, I'm more like George. How's your day this morning?
Good.
Keeping in there.
All right, cool. So first, thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate it. I think what you all are doing is fantastic, and I'm happy to get you all to chat on the start of it. Because obviously the vision is to do something great, and that's what we are trying to capture the essence of. So thank you all.
Thanks.
So we're going to get into some questions. Um, And after the questions, then we can get into the story, how you all met, um, what's business like, the plans, etc. Cool?
Sounds great.
Good.
All right. If you had the opportunity, would you go to the moon?
No.
Why not?
I have my own battles here that need to be handled, and I just want to make sure that they get done.
As long as Elon Musk was piloting the spaceship, I'd be there.
Okay. Um, what word or phrase do you all overuse?
Word or phrase that we normally use?
Overuse.
Overuse. Some profanity, probably. Yeah.
Probably something about efficiency, I would think.
Oh, sorry. Moments of frustration, you're like heavily invested in the things, and yeah, you can be vocal about it sometimes.
Okay. What is your least favorite thing to do?
Wash the dishes. Or we're talking about the business.
No, we're not. These are life questions.
Life questions, wash the dishes.
Oh, man. I like it all. There's nothing I don't like to do.
Okay.
That's why I got into this position.
All right. What is your most favorite thing to do?
I can tell you mine. Mowing the lawn. That's my most favorite thing to do in the world.
Wait, where do you live?
I live just outside of Philadelphia, so I drive in every day. So I have a little bit of a lawn.
Okay, so you do have a lawn.
Yeah.
I love coming to the shop
Okay.
and hanging out with my wife and my dog.
All right. Speaking of that, what is the one thing your significant other or spouse would like to change about you?
How messy I am at home, for sure.
That I would hear her the first time. The wood shop has definitely affected my hearing, and
Sure. And we can all use that excuse, right? What makes you tick?
improving some kind of system.
Seeing things get accomplished, like keeping busy.
Okay. What irks you the most?
The reverse of that, so idle time.
I don't feel like anything's getting me down that much.
Okay. What sound makes you happiest?
Motor spooling up. I'll use that one too. I like that.
Or I mean, the next phase of that, which is like a real heavy cut, like on
Oh
the
yeah, like
planer.
a fully loaded machine, like in its happy zone.
The tooling on the CNC has a real nice sound when it's like taking a real nice heavy cut that I can hear in my office. And so when I hear that, I know the right things are happening.
Yes, work's being done.
Yeah.
What sound bothers you the most?
Like some kind of mechanical thing that you haven't put your finger on yet, like a bearing or like a motor is just not sounding right, and like the HVAC system of your house, like something's not right.
Traffic for me, the noise of cars, I can't stand it.
What profession other than your own would you like to try?
How close of a profession could it? I would want to be a machinist, like in metalworking, but maybe that's too close. So
Yeah, for me, it's a real close one too, like interior design, but I'd be terrible at
oh
it.
no, I'd be a real estate developer.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we'll be doing that soon, so.
Give it time. What would you like on your tombstone?
Ooh, man.
I just want a tree, a white oak tree, with some ashes under it. No tombstone.
Man, nothing. I don't want a tombstone. Just want to be left out in the woods somewhere.
You know, 90% of the close to 100 people I've had a conversation with have said that. They don't want tombstones. They don't want to be buried.
Don't want to be buried or don't want a tombstone?
They want ashes.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back to the dirt, but no need for a tombstone.
Okay. All right. What is it about your personalities that drive your business?
Work ethic, I'd imagine, right? Neither of us ever stop. We have like a goal in mind and we're going towards it no matter what.
And like problem solving, because like there's a locked door at every turn, and you're just trying to unlock the doors and get to the next stage, and there's going to be a problem at every step, and you just figure out a workaround around it, and yeah, there's so many problems, but
Yeah, and I was going to say that in what we do, there's always something in the way saying don't go, you can't do it.
yeah,
And you just got to figure out how to do it.
totally.
Dave?
Sorry, what was the question?
What is it about your personality that drives your business?
I was saying the ability to just keep going and never stop.
Right. What is it about your personality that hinders your business?
The fact that we hate talking about ourselves and like social media and all of that. We're horrible marketers. We just want to be in the shop and that's it. And that's been the number one biggest hindrance for us.
And we just want to make all the parts, or we're like interested in that. And you make decisions with your emotions, not necessarily fully weighing out what's most comfortable. In craft school, there's like no business courses. It's just like, go.
Right. That's why we all have problems.
Yeah.
If you were to travel cross country on a motorcycle, who would it be with?
Greg Combs.
Who's Greg Thomas?
Greg Combs.
Greg Combs.
He's like a friend of mine who's an engineer and CNC operator, programmer, super smart guy, and he goes on crazy adventure motorcycle trips. So technically minded and knows the bike.
That's
For survival reasons and friendship reasons, my pick right there.
Well, if you're going to say Greg Combs, I'll call out his motorcycle riding companion,
Oh.
Peter Basil, and
Sorry.
maybe we can meet up there somewhere and have a Porsche. So, I mean, Peter's right on par. He used to work with Greg, great CNC operator. Just started his own business with Adam Rogers, who I think you're going to be talking with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're old BDDW guys, so we've learned a lot about how industrial woodworking works from those guys. So smart guys.
I didn't know that. Good to know. Yeah, BDW is a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole nother type of woodworking that I wasn't aware of that has kind of driven the way that we look at woodworking. Industrial woodworking is the coolest woodworking, personal speaking.
Okay. So do you want to talk about that versus conventional woodworking?
At a certain scale, you utilize different machines. Like a rough mill line has a Taylor rack, like a clamp carrier, so you can load it up. Doesn't take up a bunch of floor space. You're not breaking your back with bar clamps. Straight line rip saw, chain fed glue line tolerances, wide belt sander. I used to hate hard maple because all the tear out, but once you start machining it with the CNC and running it through wide belt sanders, it's like a whole nother material.
So there's just like an efficiency of scale and repeatability that's kind of amazing when you're starting to work with those types of machines.
And you can express ideas quicker. Like you're not struggling trying to put a curve on something. You can do it accurately, quickly, efficiently, better cut quality than anything you can ever dream of.
For us, once you know the most efficient way to do something, it's really hard to do it in any other way. And that's what comes with that scale that a company like BDDW is at.
The Lee Nielsen planes come out here and there, but we know how to use them. But they don't get used as much anymore.
Right. You're not in there on a Sunday pushing the plane. I'm going to have to agree with you on that because for the longest, I've always had bigger machines, but I honestly wasn't on the wide belt sander until later. And I think that was the biggest kick myself in the shin moment was what was I doing? Because you can, yeah, because I get tear out all the time with the big machines, and we run it through the sander a couple of times, and it's fine. And fighting with that on the orbital sander is a mess. The board enough come out flat.
Grit on it yet?
I'm sorry?
Have you run 36 grit on it yet?
No, 40.
Yeah. Well, it's like a whole different machine with that on there.
Yeah, it's a planer.
Yeah.
Abrasive planer.
Yes.
Take the glue right off.
Everything. I was joking. One of my guys, we were moving something, and he bumped into the 40 grit paper. He was like, "Ow!" Take his skin off as well. When was the last time you cried?
My grandmother recently passed away.
Sorry to hear that.
Oh, thank you. She was 97. So
Good for her.
proud to be her grandson.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly, but September 11th just came up, and last year I definitely cried during the anniversary of September 11th for no good reason, but that was the last time.
That's a pretty good reason.
No good personal reason. I wasn't like personally affected other than how everyone was.
Yeah, the impact it had on our country and the people in it.
Yeah.
What was your favorite concert?
Ooh, I have one. It was in the Allentown Fairgrounds in Pennsylvania. It was Ween, Sonic Youth, and the Flaming Lips.
How long ago?
That was probably 12 years ago or something like that.
Okay. What made that your favorite concert?
Just amazing experience with friends and great bands all together, and it was at like a fair. Like there was a guy like juggling chainsaws, like a couple booths down. So it was just like an amazing environment.
No, I 10, 12 years ago, my son and I went on a roller coaster binge, and we did 87 roller coasters in the summer.
Wow.
We started out in Ohio. We flew to Ohio. We did 2 roller coaster parks there. We flew back, and then we jumped in my '66 Volkswagen and hit Jersey. Then we hit Pennsylvania, and we had a tent. So we go to Hershey, PA, and and he lived in New Orleans, so he came to visit with me. So we're in Hershey, PA at the amusement park. He finds out that Hershey, PA has a school for troubled inner city youth. And he's like, Dad, my mom's always yelling at me. Can I go to school there? And I'm like, no, that's not what it means.
That's hilarious.
So we hit the next park in, it was a little deeper in PA. There's Hershey, there's one in Allentown,
Thorny?
and there's one right outside of Hershey where you pay for tickets to get in.
Not sure.
And it was a little backwoods. And when you said the chainsaws, it made me think of that place.
In Ohio, they have a really big wooden roller coaster there, don't they?
At Cedar Point, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also in New Jersey, Six Flags, there's a brand new wooden roller coaster. And that thing pushes 80 miles an hour. And it's as smooth as any metal roller coaster ever.
Huh.
So that one's pretty nice. What impact, I'm sorry, concert.
Never answered.
Oh.
I started talking.
A year and a half ago, I saw this guy, Israel Nash, in Manayunk here in Philadelphia. And it's someone I've been following. You know how when you see someone before they're like really talented and they play like a hole in the wall bar for like $12, and just like barely anyone there. Got to talk to him after the show, and I'm a sucker for anything with a pedal steel in it. And there was pedal steel that night, and so it's about the environment as well as the music for me.
All right, cool. I like that. I think I'm having that same feeling with you all. I think that you all are very talented and you're on to something great. And I get to chat with you before you start doing big stadiums.
Thank you.
So this is the equivalent to a hole in the wall.
Welcome to our hole in the wall.
I mean, mine.
Well, we have our own hole in the wall.
Hole
in the ceiling.
What impact do you want to leave on the industry?
Every young woodworker is influenced by the way woodworking was done before, and some of my favorite woodworkers are Hans Wegner, and the way that he was able to put so much life into wood, shaping it, and directly using shapers and jigs, this industrial woodworking, this repeatable, manufacturable woodworking that I'm talking about. And we have like new tools now. CNCs are becoming available on the used market and obtainable for smaller businesses like ourselves. So the game's changing, and how can you kind of add to everything that you thought was great about the generations before? And it's like how they were as designers, but designer makers specifically, and how their knowledge of the industry helped create lasting designs that like we still are made that way. People rip them off, they're like so good. Integral joinery, steam bent parts. That's what I'm trying to do. What are you trying to do?
We come from a craft background, and so when it's like, well, what do you want to leave on the industry? Kind of like what industry? If are we talking about like industrial woodworking, like in North Carolina kind of thing, or like craft industry? And we see like a through line between it all. And I think the impact that we talk about is kind of like combining all that stuff. That there's no like craft or manufacturing.
Craft
like,
manufacturing.
Yeah, a term that we kind of coined. And so kind of just like this melding of all things involving making.
People get hung up on, this is coming from me. I get hung up on, or when I was in school and you're like taught to think about craft, the world is just making things. Whether you're making a die that's going to go into a plastic injection molder to make a soda cap, it's like a penny, or you're making the most beautiful chest of drawers, hand-cut dovetails, carved this, that. Everything is just a different version of making. Some people are put on stage and praised for decorative reasons, and other people are kind of never acknowledged, but there's all this craft. So there is, like when you study it in school, it's like there's this higher thing called craft, and at the end of the day, everyone's just making shit, and you just try to make beautiful things that are made in smart ways, that have good proportions and are going to last a long time. But I kind of feel like I went on a tangent and
All good.
fully part of the question.
It's all good. We have a question here. Chris McCaskill ask about working with combinations of handwork and CNC.
What are the combinations?
He says, ask about working with combinations of handwork and CNC.
I kind of gravitate towards this 90-10 philosophy that 90% of it's off of a machine, 10% of it's by hand. So everyone's using tools. So like, what is handwork? Like that's a conversation in itself. And so we make some chairs where we shape the intersections where the CNC can't. We just leave a little block there and kind of continue the form. And you're kind of limited by the tool. Like if I had a 5-axis router right now, maybe it would be like a little less. But people want the sensitivity of handwork in that kind of consideration. But at the end of the day, you're running a business, and like, what are people going to pay for? And like, I could chew the wood with my teeth, but nobody wants to pay for that. So there's this balance.
It's more about understanding material than is it handmade or machine made. And we understand how to cut things on the CNC because we were taught how to use a hand plane and understand the grain. And it's really about understanding like materials and process. And it's not even a discussion for us like handmade versus machine made. We just use the appropriate techniques to make forms.
Yeah, and I think I have to kind of continue what David was saying, is that it has to be profitable. So you can't sit at a bench all day with hand tools and get paid for that because there'll be so many hours in it. Well, you may be able to get paid for it, but it won't be affordable for the masses.
Totally. And even at that, it's like, I mean, shop rent's expensive, new equipment's expensive, like, but when you run a bigger shop, the expenses it forces you to think differently.
It does.
If I was still in my parents' garage and not paying rent and never paid an electric bill, come in and get a sandwich when I was hungry, and like someone was maybe there to make it for me, I was able to work in different ways. But now it's like it's just a different beast. It's a lot more to think about in a good kind of way. I like the challenges of it.
Yeah, I have a yard that I've been in for 8 years, and I have 1 million board feet of lumber. And the only thing I've done in that yard was cut, 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 and stack, cut and stack, cut and stack. And now I got to move that yard. 20, 25 grand just to move the timber. So I don't know if I would go about that the same way in my new yard. I would have to think about it differently. I mean, of course, I knew the place I was in wasn't long term, but I wasn't thinking beyond that. I was just milling lumber, milling lumber, milling lumber. And having a bigger operation where everything I thought was fine, and then I look up, I'm like, wait a minute, this new yard is half the price of my current yard, and it's bigger. Yeah. So I'm like, I gotta go, and I gotta move now, because that saves me $30,000 a year. So why am I gonna wait a month to start saving that money? So I bit the bullet, and
A $5,000 move is free.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So it's gonna cost me 25 to move in a year. That covers itself. Plus, I'm in a bigger space where I can be more organized and move more product. But initially, when I first thought about it, I was like, oh my God. And in the end, it's much better. Much, much better. What was the most difficult time for your business, and how did you overcome it? Of course, you are starting out. I don't know if that applies, but if it does, let's hear it.
I think so we started about 8 years ago, and
Wow. Okay.
yeah, so and I think the first like 6 years of that were incredibly hard because of figuring everything out. And now we know where we're headed, and there's challenges to that, and it's extremely hard. But just being totally lost was the hardest part.
Like, nobody taught us how to make a business plan in school. I mean, because we weren't studying business.
And even if we did know how to make a business plan, we wouldn't know who wanted our products or services right away. There's some like figuring out to that. You just kind of have to like last through it to get to the point where you know what to do.
We knew we were woodworkers and we were supposed to be cutting wood. But
Yeah.
that got me sometimes.
Yes. And I always say that, you start with a plan, and the business to kind of tell you what you're going to be doing. You just have to listen to it.
That's not the most profitable way to approach it, though. If I hear what you're saying, right? But yeah, it's more of it was a passion kind of decision.
Yeah. Well, I guess to elaborate, I guess if you want to make X and clients are buying Y, do you continue to make X?
Yeah, because sometimes you need a stepping stone. I mean, how many furniture makers out there that just want to be making solid wood furniture start doing built-ins or millwork? But you know how to do it, and it's not all bad work. And,
But
we want to make a furniture brand, and but we have diversified to utilize our capabilities, and it's taken
so
us.
The answer then is, if we're making X but people are buying Y, then we make Y and X.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was my point about the business to tell you. The business to tell you what direction you're going in. You just have to listen to it.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't know if I.
River, you figure out what way it's flowing, and
Yes.
ride it.
Yes. Yeah. Of course, not blindly. With the X and Y, as George said. Do you all have any black friends?
Yeah, totally.
We're in Philly. It's majority black.
Okay.
If that matters.
All right. Do you often see people of color in your industry?
I would say that there's probably not enough.
I agree with that.
All right. How do we change that?
I think
Letting people know it's out there. It's I mean, hiring people in general is tough, and finding employees, and the more there can be like a pipeline for people to go to jobs like ours. Like in Philadelphia, there are a ton of companies like ours. There's so many jobs out there for woodworking, like working with your hands, metalworking, woodworking, ceramics, all of that, and making sure that people are aware of it and that people are getting whatever proper training they need. Um, I think that the people in Philadelphia are not aware of it and not getting proper training. So it makes it harder to hire.
well, also, I mean, no, that was like a half-formed idea.
That's fine.
A lot of
I,
ideas.
I'm with you. I agree with that. It has a lot to do with access and opportunity. And even with an opportunity, you got to be prepared for it. So I'm 100% with you. Who would you all most like to have a conversation with? Your screen froze. Hmm. So I'm going to stay on um, in case they get off and get on. If you can hear me, um, you can stop it and come back on. Oh, I see a little movement. Hmm. So hopefully they come back in. What's up, Peter Harrison? J Hen 666, you're 100% correct.
We've
What's up?
we've relocated next to our Wi-Fi.
It's all good. It's all good. Um, they're here. um, okay, so the question was, who would you all most like to have a conversation with?
Morgan Eschrick, woodworker in Pennsylvania.
Quite the dude.
George and I
I've been,
admire.
yeah, I've been to his crib a couple times.
Yeah.
Amazing place.
Yeah, that was a major inspiration for us in multiple ways.
Okay, describe that. How?
The way that he affected his environment. We talk about Edgewood as we want to make the house and everything inside of it. Before we started the company the year before, George actually designed and built a house for a client, and we want to get back to that point where we're affecting like the whole living environment, and Eschrick does that 100%. He's, built his house down to like the spoons he uses and like every
Everything.
every single bit of it is him.
Yeah, those crazy floors with the designs and the angles. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Um, all right, so let's talk about how you all got started, how you met.
So we met at the School for American Crafts up in Rochester, and George had designed as part of his thesis, he designed a porcelain cup that had a wood grain texture on it, and I asked him if he was planning on doing anything with it. He said no. I asked him if it was all right if I tried to see if we
said
could.
no, but you're not doing anything without me.
Yeah, there you go. And so I figured out if we could turn it into a product, and we looked for a ceramic studio to slip cast them. Couldn't find any place that could match like the price that it needed to be or the quality. So we ended up starting our own studio. And so even though we were in furniture design school, we started working together in ceramics.
We kind of saw slip cast ceramics as like a very fundamental craft manufacturing process. We make a wooden plug, we pull molds off of the plug, like the pattern, and from that mold we pour slip in, and you make multiples. And it was a cup, so it was spindle turned on the lathe, and those forms are inherently solid. And when you pull a mold off of slip cast ceramics, and cast into it, you're actually making a wall thickness. Thanks for the lighting, David. So something that's inherently solid becomes inherently hollow. We shouldn't have started a ceramics company if you look at it from a business standpoint and like running the numbers. We weren't even ceramicists. I took a independent study elective in grad school, and it basically only made that cup. A friend of mine was teaching it, and I probably didn't work too hard, and became that cup that was that kind of drove the decision. But it was just like, hey, let's do this. Sounds cool. But ceramics is a really interesting beast. It's like there's a lot of like understanding the material.
Yeah. Material and process. And also it's really cheap to get into. You just need a kiln and a table and a sink. That's it. And prototyping a piece of furniture takes so much machinery and time, and ceramics was really easy to make little prototypes, and then we really started selling things at wholesale trade shows. So it was the beginning of doing like a home goods line, and we filled it out with wood and really slowly, like cutting boards and things like that, and slowly got back to the furniture, which is a lot harder to sell and prototype and all that.
Wow. So 8 years ago, you all started only ceramics?
No. Well, the year I was in Idaho building a house, David had one more year of school. So our first employee was a ceramicist. So he kind of just had a studio space, and it was like a real low budget operation. And in that second year, I had some machines tucked away, and we bought the CNC and started to do woodworking again.
That first studio space, he was part of something called the Clay Studio in Philadelphia, which is this great organization that helps clay artists. And so he had a space there. So we didn't pay any rent because he was doing a work exchange program. And then he was real loosey-goosey about getting paid. So we were basically getting free products starting out. So it wasn't like this big financial thing, but it kind of, even though we didn't set it out to do it, it kind of proved a concept that we could work together, that we could sell a product. And we didn't sell many of them at first, but it still was the starting point.
There was a camping trip in there in the Adirondack Mountains, up Mount Marcy in the winter in January, that we went on, and a bunch of friends from RIT were supposed to go on, and it ended up being just me and David, and it was almost like this. That's when we kind of conceived this idea, like maybe we should start a company. That would be cool, and like we almost froze to death that night. We called it quits a day early. We were in like a lean-to, and the snow was blowing in, and like it was like 8 miles back in the woods. But there's a lot of challenges in a business. Like you almost run out of money all the time, and problem solving, and how to sell things,
and any of those people who would have gone on that trip could have started the business with us, and it was kind of proof that we were willing to go into it together, because everyone else bailed. And there's nothing better than waking up in the morning with your hair frozen to the ground.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And you're right that you two stuck it out and you winded up sticking together, and here we are.
Yeah, and it was something that we didn't know anything about. Like the other people knew more about camping in the winter than we did, and and but we were willing to do it. We were willing to get ourselves in a situation and dig ourselves out. So it was definitely, in hindsight, very telling of everything we've gotten into.
Cool. So what is the big picture?
Of what we're trying to accomplish or what we're currently doing.
Yeah, what you're trying to accomplish.
That idea of making the home and everything in it. We want to literally be able to do that. And the thing that inspires us is having certain capabilities. As designers, we want to be able to make anything that we can conceive of. And in order to do that, we have to have a business that does a certain volume. And so we get into certain types of work to get that volume so that we can have the machinery and capabilities that we want, so that we can have this like freedom of design and making. But it all comes back to this idea of the house and everything in it.
Okay. Where were you all before this big shop you're in now?
Can you repeat that?
Where was your shop before this big shop you just moved into?
It was like 5 minutes down the road.
Okay.
But a third of the size. So we're during the pandemic, we moved right when everything got shut down. So it was this bizarre moment in time where pre-pandemic, we had our best year ever in 2019. We're growing, and got ready to move into the space that was 3 times the size of our old space. And then everything got shut down. So it's been an interesting moment of kind of like rebuilding from that. But currently we're in a 24,000 square foot space. Before we were in 8,000. And that 8,000 square foot space we were in for a little over 5 years. And then before that, we were in this, I mean, you want to describe Jomar?
Oh, man.
It's an old.
Have you ever been to Kensington?
No.
Heroin capital of the world.
Lots of factories. They're just like, there's, especially at that time, there's very, very cheap factories. And
it was an old mint factory, and there's literally like sugar syrup dripping down the walls. Our wide belt sander still has some like drip marks of sugar on it.
You'd find these mice that were just like stuck like a sticky trap, but in like sugar, just like on the ground.
How many square feet was that building?
130. We weren't like, so that wasn't our 130,000.
But we were the first tenants in there, and kind of part of the team that was going to build it out. And so So we basically had full reign over this giant building in the middle of Kensington, and it felt like we were like cowboys there. George was sleeping up on the roof, like all sorts of things were going on there, everything except for running our business. Like we were just kind of surviving in there, and it eventually got shut down by licensing and inspections for
Really?
don't have anything to do with us, and that's when we moved to the space that we were in for 5 years, and that was the best move ever because we weren't really paying rent in that first space, and so there wasn't much responsibility. We were just kind of fooling around, and when we started having to pay real rent, things started to get a lot more serious. We discovered trade shows and started getting into actually trying to run a business.
$8,000 feet, it wasn't big enough. That's crazy to me. That's a lot of space.
As we grew, the landlord would just build another wall and then another wall. And it was just like, if you were an architect laying out the space from the beginning, or just like someone with common sense, you would have never laid it out that way. So it was a very inefficient 8,000 square feet.
Got it.
But it was also completely incredible when we moved out, looking over it and thinking that there was a time when it was enough space. It was a completely bizarre feeling to, like, I couldn't even see the space anymore as a space that could work for us. And there was a time, like when we first moved in there, we didn't move in with 8,000 square feet. We moved in probably like 3,000. And that was too much when we moved in. So we slowly grew in that space. And like I said, by the end of it, I couldn't even imagine running a business in there. It just felt way too cramped.
Okay, so I'm watching you all move in your new shop, and you get a CNC, and you didn't have electric for it originally, and you ran it off the generator.
Still running it off the generator. The electric power supply is like halfway there.
Waiting
for Pico to put a transformer down, and we'll be good.
So okay. That's that like not letting anything get in your way kind of thing. Like this building was right. We knew that there needed to be a power upgrade. We had a strong suspicion it wasn't going to get there in time. And so we said, what do we need to do to keep our business going? And George figured out how to, get our hands on a used generator that we
Facebook Marketplace
that we had to fix up a little bit. And
a 1972 International Harvester, big block V8 that runs on gasoline.
And so we're running all of our three-phase off of that. Like
235 amps it'll produce.
Wow.
We can set up our CNC in a field in the middle of nowhere now and be cutting parts.
I'm going to have a shop on the top of a mountain in Colorado.
Listen, just so you all know, it gets cold there.
I love it.
All right, so how efficient is it running off the generator? I'm just asking.
But it's way more efficient than not having a shop.
Yes, there's nothing more inefficient than that.
So it's one of these things where every time you want to turn on a machine, first you have to fire up the generator.
It's only our three-phase. It's not our lights. It's not our hot water heater. It's just machine power.
And then you do have to be careful not to run too many machines at once. Like we have two dust collections, and you can't like spike them both at the same time.
The CNC will stop. It'll drop the voltage, and then it's like you got to restart it. Yeah, so it's not efficient at all. But like George said, it's way more efficient than not having a shop. And there's a lot of times sanding, assembling. There's a single-phase compressor for sanding, spray booth activities. There's a single-phase Delta Unisaw. So there's days that we only run the generator like 2 hours. There's other days it runs 8 hours. But can't wait to have real power. That'll be awesome.
Yeah. I have 300 amps in my shop and 30 machines, and mine, the same thing. I have not much of my stuff is hardwired. I have it on plugs. So, and the reason for that is, and I don't know if you all know this, the electric company, well, if it depends on the electrician that comes in, he's going to count the amperage of all your machines. And from that, he's going to tell you how much amps you need coming into the building. Well, that's artificial because all of those machines are not going to be running at once. So I don't need 1,000 amps. When I need to plug in a machine, I'll plug it in and use it. There's not that many people in my shop to consume half of that amount of electricity. But when you hardwire it, that's the way the electrical company sees it, and that's how they try to charge you for what's coming in. So just a heads up.
Yeah. At our old shop, once we melted the meter for pulling so much power, and then a second time we melted
The aerial
line coming from the pole to the building. So what we were rated at, we were definitely a little bit over it.
That was 200 amps.
Um,
But we're going to have 600 amps of 480 volts. So we can have a whole army of robots.
Right. Now, Chris said he disagreed with me. I'm only doing what the electrician told me. So, so can we get a tour?
Yeah. We're going to drop out a signal.
We can try. We were downstairs before so that we could give you a tour.
We'll start with upstairs.
So you have 2 floors.
Not the whole floor.
Okay.
So this is our office that isn't fully built out yet. Here, I will switch the direction here. Is that, there we go. So we're building it out. In here will be a showroom, and then over here we have our office set up. We used to have a showroom in Lambertville, New Jersey, and so we've since closed that down and are starting to move some of our pieces in here. And you can see the
Now,
doorway
who's
we're
doing all
making.
who's doing all the drywall? Is it you all, or you hired someone to do it?
Nope, we do. Yeah, we do everything ourselves. So you can see the rest of this floor is empty right now. So if anyone wants to come and hang out with us, there's plenty of space. And here's where we're building out the office.
So did you all paint everything as well? Because everything looks like it's fresh white paint.
Sorry, what was that?
Did you all paint everything up there?
No. What you see there is how it was. So now coming down into our shop, has the same footprint as upstairs does, and we have this space as well as the space down there. We'll start at one end and go to the other.
Okay.
So we'll do what we're walking into now is the metal shop, and storage area for all that random stuff that we moved. Oh, where's the light switch in here? So we have our 2 dust collections here, and then metal shop.
Wow.
And then there's a bunch of storage back there, and it goes to the loading dock. Any machines you want to call out in here, George?
Everyone's going to have a Bridgeport mill.
No doubt.
That's about it.
Welders.
So now we're going back into the wood shop, and here's that Taylor clamp that George was talking about, so we can clamp up lots of panels at once. Just spins around. We have a wide belt.
Straight line road.
Yeah, you can give the tour.
Well, 4,000 pound forklift. old Whitney. You can
Nice.
heavy passes on that Whitney. And then my favorite machines of all, a Watson RZ.
Wow. So where did you get the machines from?
George has been collecting machines since he could walk, probably.
Like an addict. But this is like old Wendell Castle Icon line machine. He had like a production line for a hot second.
And also, like, we buy everything used. So we're scouring Craigslist everywhere, rebuilding machines, just enough to get them to do what we want.
Yeah.
The main machine in the shop, basically all of the machinery we just showed you is in service of the CNC. So it's all about preparing panels to be put on the CNC. And we bought this one used.
Some IRS auctions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Industrial Recovery Service.
We all roll there.
Oh yeah, we can show you the generator. This is a key to any good wood shop tour is the generator. There she is.
Don't let anyone tell you you can't have three-phase.
Sweet.
Then we have kind of sanding and assembly area here. Spray booth, another thing that we bought used. Disassembled it, reassembled it in our shop. Some cutting boards
Very
that I think
nice.
are all sanded, ready for finish. So these all get cut on the CNC.
Where do you get your wood from?
Horizon Wood Products.
Horizon Wood Products. They're an awesome company.
And where are they?
They're in Central PA.
Ask for Pete. Tell him George sent you.
So you don't need any wood.
I don't need any wood. But I'm always curious where people get it from.
Nobody tried to buy 2 boards from him. You won't buy.
Yeah. So this is George's studio. And then coming in here is first we have a laser cutter. And then packaging, inventory. Someone asked about seeing a wood grain cup before because that was the first product that we made. Hopefully they're still here. So this is the porcelain wood grain cup.
Nice.
Turned it on a lathe, sandblasted it, and then took a mold of it.
A rubber mold first, and then plastic, and then because the wood wants to go crazy when you get it wet.
Now we're walking into ceramics. Because of our electrical upgrade not being in yet, we're only running these 2 small kilns, but then we have a larger electric kiln and then a gas kiln that we haven't set up yet. Here's where all the power is going to come in. And then
Okay, this is what we're gonna do. Let's hold it right here. We got 55 seconds. So let's stay right there. Let's hop off and hop back on.
okay, sounds great.
All right. So we're gonna get off and we'll be right back. All right. Thank you.
And we're back in ceramics.
Yeah. Jay in the shop is crazy.
So we're doing all slip casting here. So you have some slip casting tables. Here's the joys of working with ceramics. There's a nice spill that happened.
Explosion today.
Okay, so what's slip casting? I don't know what that is.
Okay. Here you can hold that. So slip casting is taking, in our case, porcelain that's liquid clay versus plastic clay, where you can mold it with your hand. Liquid clay, you can pour it and spill it like that.
In like a tank.
And so you have, this is for a little lid that we do. And so you pour the liquid clay into here, and then the plaster absorbs the moisture out of that clay and creates a skin on the outside of the mold. Once that skin is the right thickness, you pour out all of the excess, and then once it's dry enough, you pop out your piece and clean it up, fire it a couple times, and then you have the finished product.
Wow. And that allows you to do a lot of volume.
Yeah, because you have molds. You can produce something over and over that's basically exactly the same.
Very nice.
Yeah, some product and carts getting ready to be put in the kiln probably.
Are you all competitive at all with each other?
No, not at all.
No, not at all. I think that me and David want the same thing out of it, but like different aspects of it. So we just do our thing.
Okay. So talk to me about that. What is it you want as opposed to what David wants that brings you to the same place?
What do you want, George?
I just want to come in the shop every day and make cleaner, tighter work and streamline the shop. The shop is a machine, and you can constantly tune it for what you're trying to do. And like perfection does not exist. Like it's a quest for getting as close to it as you possibly can. But I mean, like what is like 0, 0? Like there's always a decimal place behind it. So
I think neither of us, going in a little bit different direction, have like an ego about being designers or anything like that. And we're both in it just to be running a business. So we try to keep ego out of it as much as possible.
How often are you all together?
5 days a week, if not more.
All right. In George has kids.
No, David has kids.
David has kids.
Yep.
How big? One?
6 years old.
All right. Okay. What is your day-to-day like? Is there one thing that you all concentrate on most, or you come in with a list and you're checking all of these things off on the list?
David definitely has a list.
Yeah.
Checking them all
I do this day to day.
I come in, I say, David, what are we doing? And he reminds me everything that I'm working on, and then I'm usually pretty good.
Yeah. Whichever client is yelling the loudest, we're doing their work.
No.
Yeah, no, that's real.
Nobody should be yelling.
I completely agree. But sometimes people do, just because they want to.
That's all right.
Well, if they're doing it because they want to, then it's probably not going to work out too well for them. But if they actually have a legitimate reason, they're going to get taken care of.
What's the biggest? Who are your clients?
So we have a few different sides of the business. We have home goods that are our own designs under our own brand. We also have furniture, same thing. And then we also make other designers furniture and home goods. And then more new to us, we've been doing a lot of like things for custom interiors. So interior designers and architects will come to us and either we'll collaborate on designs with them or make their designs, and as well as we're developing our own line of products for custom interiors, things like a custom kitchen that's our design that speaks to the language of our company. And that just all falls under that same concept of the home and everything in the home. Whether we're designing it or other people are designing it, the goal is still the same, making the home and everything in it. So there's a big range of who our client is and many different price points that we're working in.
Do you sometimes get lost in all of the stuff that you all do?
I mean,
Like lost, like you don't know where you're at and you can't get out of it? No. Are you like,
Both George and I, people will ask like, how do we work together? Why are we doing what we're doing? Stuff like that. It's the only thing that we know how to do. It's like the only path that we see forward. There is no other way to do it. Like we want to be working in wood, metal, and ceramics and more materials, and it's it's the only thing we can wrap our minds around. Uh, so in some ways, it's the only thing that does make sense.
Okay. And I guess what I meant by does one thing is one part of what you do more consuming than the other?
The woodworking side of the business is definitely the biggest part of the business, and luckily things like cutting boards that the design is finished, we can just produce over and over and over, and it just fits into the flow of our shop. Whereas custom stuff and new designs is really what takes up all of our time. And that's one of the amazing things about working with machines like the CNC is once you figured it out, the work's done. You just have to hit load it, you have to hit play and keep it moving. And I think that's one of the appeals of working at the scale that we do is that we have the opportunity to have a lot of different things going on, but not have to focus intensely on every part of it. It's so more and more I get to focus on the system rather than the individual things that are happening.
This has me thinking about all of the things that I think about in my shop and the directions. Have you all wanted to do something and not been able to do it? Is there besides the electricity, is there something that you missing that will make things better?
everyone can always use more money?
Uh, Constantly. Before we were saying like once you know the efficient way to do something, it's really hard to do it in any other way. So every day we're learning about like new woodworking equipment, new processes that we don't have access to, and there's so many challenges every day of processes not working out and having to work around it and stuff like that. And we do want to do a lot of stuff, so we can't do all of it, and it's challenging to figure out what things are the things we should be working on versus what we want to work on, and what makes the most sense for the business.
Hmm. Where do you see yourself in? Okay, Jay Henny has a question. Since you use CC bits constantly, do you sharpen them or buy new ones?
We send them out to get sharpened, which is not that much cheaper than buying a new one, but cheap enough.
But certain things like if you need the true diameter of the bit, like a half-inch bit, you keep grinding, it's not a half-inch bit anymore. Certain things you can compensate for, and certain things you don't want to. So sometimes you're just getting a new one, but you try to.
What do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you outgrow this 24,000 square feet shop, or are you confident that this will be home for a little while?
We want to just keep designing and setting up manufacturing facilities. I love manufacturing. It is like the greatest thing in the world.
How many square feet is the total building?
45,000.
So that's the goal in 5 years, to have the entire building and own it. Right now we're renting.
I like it. So is the rest?
It's part of the bigger machine. Like at a certain point, you're running a big dust collection outside, and you're putting a lot of infrastructure in. It's like you kind of, at a certain point, you kind of have to own the building to feel like it's not going to get pulled out from under you.
Yeah, yeah. That's I'm 100%. I'm with that. ownership is the way to go. The remainder of the building, is it not occupied?
Yeah, we're the only people in here.
Yeah.
And
It
what
was
part of
an abandoned building that our landlord purchased 12 years ago from the city, and basically he bought it cash for nothing, and I think he's very slowly fixed it up all with cash as he could, and so we're the first tenants in there.
what part of Philly are you in?
The Germantown area?
All right. And how is that space or area and neighborhood conducive to you all having a manufacturing business, or
Yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit more of a talented driver to back a semi down into our dock, but they do it. We're on a little bit of a busy street. That's why I say that. The rent is cheap.
And the building's perfect, so
I mean, it's perfect for the price. Like, no columns, higher ceilings, that's always good, but lower ceilings are easier to heat. We're making furniture, I can deal with columns. It's a concrete building, it's not going to burn down. You're never going to check all your boxes with cheap rent on a building, but it checked all the major boxes. Yeah.
so what, as far as the building, what boxes would you also want to check?
That I don't have?
Yes.
our goal is to take over like an old Walmart or Home Depot or something like that, where it's all steel construction and there's giant spans with no columns, and you can basically do whatever you want inside of it. But in Philadelphia, there's lots of these concrete buildings with columns that make a lot of sense for us right now, and not many of those types of buildings I'm talking about.
Okay. All right. I think we've covered it all.
Sounds good.
Is there anything that I'm missing? Does anyone have any questions? I think we got it. Gentlemen, thank you all very, very much for your time, your generosity. I greatly appreciate it. And God willing, a few years we do this again, or maybe a couple. It depends on how fast you're growing.
Yeah, if you're ever in Philly, stop on by.
Definitely. So thank you again, and have a great evening.
You too. Great meeting you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you all. Good night.